would do the honors. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, the 24th day of May, 2021. This is a scheduled municipal caucus of the Jersey City Municipal Council. In effort to adhere to social distancing protocols and best practices imposed by the city and state authorities, the city of Jersey City has canceled all public meetings and closed non-essential services as of March 16, 2020 until further notice. As a result, this council caucus will be held virtually as a video conference. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. The clock on my computer is showing exactly 4 p.m. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
Councilperson Saleh.
Here.
Councilperson Solomon. Not here yet. Councilperson Robinson. Not here yet. Councilperson Lavaro.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera.
Here.
And Council President Waterman.
Here.
Okay, we have 7 members in attendance at 4 p.m. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, May 21st, 2021 at 4:05 p.m. to the mayor, council, business administrator, corporation council, and the local newspapers, and posted on the city's website, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Okay, council members, I'm going to take it right from the top, if that's okay with Council President.
Yes.
All righty. On to our first reading ordinances. Item 3.1, City Ordinance 21-037, an ordinance authorizing the sale of a denial of access, the sale of an easement, and the sale of land in fee to the State of New Jersey Department of Transportation of real property owned by the City of Jersey City, known as Block 11702, Lot 5, Block 11706, Lot 1, and Block 11707, Lot 2, also known as on the DOT maps as parcels E12A, E12C, E12D, E12E, 12F, 12G, and DA12B, located near the structural supports of the Pulaski Skyway near the PJP landfill site.
Okay. Who's
Thank
here
you,
to
Sean.
explain it?
Thank you, Sean. Council President, this is John. This is just an agreement with the New Jersey DOT in connection with the work that they're doing on the Pulaski Skyway in an effort to give us a dollar amount for some visible aerial rights. We do have Paul Russo here available as well if there's any particular questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, if Paul or somebody can just, I didn't understand that. What does that mean? Aerial rights for what?
So this was started in May of 2020, and NJDOT was working with the law department, Ray Reddington, Brian Platt, and the tax assessor to agree to accept, the offer of the land. And I don't think it's just aerial rights. I think it is also the actual parcels as well. Correct?
Are we selling or purchasing land here?
No, this is to purchase from the city various interests in real estate. So this is
Yeah, we're selling land. That's the way I read that, right?
correct. So this is to DOT, and this was already again worked out with various through Brian Platt since May of 2020.
Did the council give previous approvals for the sale of this land? How much land are we talking about? Can somebody give us dimensions? I know it, the maps don't really, I'm not a good
Right.
map guy to begin with, but they're not very discernible, at least I can't tell. I know it's off of 19 and Pulaski Skyway or something to that effect, but
Just looking up a email that Ray sent me that was a summary of this, and I believe he does have that.
Ray Reddington?
Correct. So he worked on, actually putting this together.
Okay, is he available to explain this?
Right. He's not available?
No, council people, I will review. I will see if I can track him down or if I can get a response here.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. See if you can find him to get him on the phone so we can get more clarity, okay? Okay, Sean, go to the next one and we'll see if we can find Ray.
Very good. Thank you. Item 3.2, City Ordinance 21-038 is an ordinance acknowledging the transfer and assignment of the property known as 16 Bennett Street, Jersey City, and consenting to the transfer of the tax exemption held by 16 Bennett Urban Renewal LLC to 16 Bennett JC Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to Section 9.1 of the financial agreement and NJSA 48 Semicolon 20-22 of the long-term tax exemption law. Council members, if there's any questions on this ordinance, we do have the attorney for that worked on the transfer.
Good evening, council. It's John Goodleman from Cole Shots. Good to see and hear everyone again. I've worked on a few of these with the city, and this project in particular is an already built project. It's been completed. It's been completed in accordance with the financial agreement and the project employment agreement that was in place, and it's just being managed at the moment. It's been substantially completed and in compliance. So the current owner is transferring the project to my client now, who is a professional asset manager in the space. To the extent the board has any questions on their ability to run and manage assets, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So this is Councilman Alonzo Lavaro. So your client is the purchaser, is that correct?
Correct, Councilman. I'm going to see if I could even turn my video on. I don't have up. Okay.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Good to see you. I haven't.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
Now I see your face.
Yeah,
It's been a
that's
while.
right. I turn it on. I don't have my suit on, but I guess that's.
Sorry, I missed your name. How are you? You doing all right?
I'm well. Everything is well. Hope everyone is doing well on your end.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me who your client is again?
So my client is the U.S. Real Estate Asset Management, and what they do is they acquire and professionally manage assets. The subsidiary entity that will hold the property will be an urban renewal entity in accordance with term tax exemption law. And I can share with the board the platform of managers that will own it. But it's very experienced individuals. The company was originally founded by David Rose and the real estate family in New York City, who eventually merged with LaSalle Partners and then merged into JLL. So they have experience, managing billions under management, billions in assets. And I can share with the board a breakdown of the platform management services that they offer, the type of assets they hold, and the current asset portfolio across the country. And it's billions in assets. So very sophisticated and experienced asset managers in the real estate space.
Okay. Does your client own other properties here in Jersey City and or have any other tax abatements?
No, currently the way the structure will be set up is that the urban renewal entity will be the sole owner of this asset class, and they do not have any other additional tax property with tax abatements in Jersey City.
If I may rephrase that question, then, like, So I understand that the LLC is established and may not own any other additional properties, but does
Right.
your client have other LLCs or other entities that might own properties here in Jersey City?
No, to the best of my knowledge, Councilman, to comply with the long-term tax exemption law, they do not.
Okay. Council President, I have other questions, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, this is more directed to the administration. So, you know, when we issued this this tax abatement back in 2017, I think it was in February of 2017 or thereabouts, we received at the time an estimate of what the conventional taxes were versus what the estimated pilot would be at the time. A couple of questions here. So first, when did the pilot take effect? And what's the start date and end date on this currently? And then I know it's like after substantial completion, but like what was the effective start date of that pilot? And then given that we received estimates at the time, I'd like to know what, if any, pilot payments have been made to date, and how much was the estimated pilot at the time, and what are the conventional taxes for each of those tax periods from that period of time that the pilot was being paid. So I don't know when this was substantially completed or when the CO was received and obtained, and when the tax abatement took effect, but if we could get all of those details as well. Additionally, there were, according to my records here, this is to be 6 moderate income residential units. I'd like to have information from our offices ensuring that there was compliance with the conforming with the affordable housing requirements around that, and providing affordable units to those 6 moderate income units. There was a PICA, performance employment contracting agreement, that should have been adhered to. I don't think this, I'm not sure if this qualified for a PLA, I don't think so. But as far as the PICA goes, if I could get the reports from our side, I know that the attorney suggested that it was in compliance, but I'd like to know from our side and our compliance officers that there is in fact compliance with regard to the PICA agreement. Additionally, there was to be annual reports filed. I'd like to get the electronic copies of the annual reports that should have been filed, and there should have been an audit upon completion of the project as well. I believe an audit of the construction costs and the entire cost of the project. I'd like to see that electronic copy of that as well. And I will cease there for now.
Thank you, Councilman. I acknowledge all those requests, and I'll make sure that our tax offices get you that information by tomorrow.
Great. And I'm sorry, one last thing. Lastly, it's my understanding this property is owned by Katera. Is that correct?
That, to my knowledge, that is not correct. I don't believe Katera owns this property, Councilman.
Who's the owner? Because I looked at their website and it's advertised on their website as a.
Is it? I can tell you the legal entity. I get to see as the attorney for the purchaser the legal entity that owns it, which is 16 Bennett Street, Urban Renewal. To the extent there's a different corporate structure than that, there may be, but in terms of the management team and the principals of that entity, I was not aware of it being Katera, but I could be wrong.
Well, whether it's Katera or any other entity, whoever developed it or built it, what was the period of construction?
I thought it was Casablanca, Councilman. That's what maybe Casablanca Construction and Realty, who constructed it, and I believe it was done back in 2015. And it's a 20-year tax abatement, so it was likely completed probably in 18 months. So I would assume it was completed in 17 or 18. We can and please, if if the board, everything Councilman LeVar is asking for, my client is interested in making sure that all of the everything has been in compliant. Also, we want to purchase an asset that's been in conformity and in compliance with all the agreements and the like.
So, sir, your information, because the information that we've been provided indicates that the tax abatement was awarded in March 8th of 2017, that there was voted on by the city council.
Okay.
And so if it was awarded then, if the council approved it at March 8th, 2017, construction should not have started until after the award of the abatement.
Correct. My dates could be slightly off, Councilman. That would be correct. And I'm looking actually at the ordinance as well that adopted the long-term tax exemption.
So to my point is that if there was an abatement in March of 2017, depending on the effective date of that and the time of construction, it's feasible that they were still doing construction in 2019, which is when the payroll tax would have been in effect, whether it's Katera, who we've addressed in previous meetings, or another entity. I'd like to see evidence of their conformity with the payroll tax, and that they've paid our payroll taxes here in Jersey City. And if you get that as soon as possible as well.
All right.
So
Thank
this
you.
is the transfer, basically the property and the existing tax abatement, correct?
Correct.
What would happen if we don't approve this? What's the effect?
Well, to be candid, Councilman, the city has the consent ability over the pilot. I mean, if it doesn't transfer, it would effectively, I guess, terminate the pilot. But we're coming to the city for consent is really an administrative ask. It's not really a you don't have the right to really deny it. As long as we're in compliance and we're not in violation of the tax abatement, it should be administratively approved.
That's correct. This is an as of right transfer.
Right.
Okay. And it's compliance with what exactly? Like all the tax laws in place and.
Correct. Really, the financial agreement in itself.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Council.
Okay, just for the record, I'm going to mark Councilperson Solomon present at 4:11 p.m. So we do have 8 council members present at 4:11. Peter, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I can just, if we can go back to 3.1, I was not able to find Ray, but I can try to just explain very quickly what the purpose of this is. I mean, it's quite literally a transfer of property. It would be the sale of property to the DOT for access for ongoing repairs and maintenance to the Pulaski Skyway. I think everyone's aware of what the property and what the land is like over there. So that being said, this was the nature of the property transfer that's being placed before the council. It has not appeared before the council before because the sale has not been perfected. So this is the council's opportunity to consider and vote on that sale. And if there are any questions about the specifics of the engineering and the location, I'm hopeful that Paul can help us out with that.
Is there a reason why it's a sale and not just like a granting a right of way to let them fix around the Pulaski Skyway and, just allowing them to do what they have to do? Or is there a benefit to the city to selling it in terms of, reduced liability? Like what's the rationale behind actually selling the property versus allowing them entry and exit to do their repairs?
I mean, I was not part of the negotiation on the sale of this property, so anything I say would be, speculative. But that being said, there are obviously, and Councilman Sillay, we can go back to first year contracts and property law here. But you're looking at, there are burdens that the owner of the property has. There are certain restrictions that are placed on an easement, on someone who holds an easement versus someone who owns a property in fee. It's very possible, and again, I can find out what the terms were that were agreed upon and what was discussed and what we can disclose. But that the Department of Transportation preferred to have fee simple in the property, and that the city agreed to that. That being said, if there are any specific questions, I can follow up with both in-house here and with the purchaser.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think like Peter said, there's obviously work to be done in the short term, but longer term, they do like to have access and not need to go through us and go through all of the approval processes to take care of their infrastructure as need be. And like Peter said, I wasn't involved in the negotiations, so all of the details, but I know, standard operating procedure, they do like to be able to access their infrastructure and do their maintenance as needed.
Thank you.
Okay, Sean.
I would just like
Council
to-
President.
Mhm.
Council President, this is Councilman Navarro. Could I just make one final comment on 3.2? Just want to clarify something because it was said that this is kind of an as-of-right transfer. I'm going to dispute that. If folks turn to it, I'll ask the Corporation Council as well to turn to page 36 of the ordinance, or what's labeled as 36 on mine. It says under assignment, Article 9, assignment and/or assumption, Section 9.1, approval of sale. It says on the fourth line, on the sixth line, under number 3, in the entity won't. The entity is not then in default of this agreement or in the law, or the law. So my questions as it relates, the entity being the applicant, and the entity I assume being, because I referred to the entity and the new entity, and I assume the new entity is the purchaser of the property and the entity is the one transferring the property. And so if the entity is not in compliance with this agreement or the law, meaning not having paid their payroll taxes or not having complied substantially with the agreement itself, that they signed a financial agreement as well as the project employment contract agreement or any other agreements under this, under their ordinance in 2017, then we are within our rights to be able to deny the assignment and the approval of this transfer of the tax abatement. And I would challenge the council to also to take the same position that we should not be transferring abatements or allowing any transactions for any entity that has an agreement with the city that they are in violation of. And I'm not suggesting that this entity is. At this point, I don't even know who the initial entity is that's transferring this pilot. But whoever the entity is, they should be in compliance with our agreements and our laws.
Right, and Councilman, if I may speak, Jonathan Goodman, the attorney of record again for the transferee. I'm not disputing what you are saying, but what I will state for the record is that to the extent the seller or the current owner of the project is in default or is not in compliance with the agreement or at law, the remedies are specifically set forth within the document in that event. And to the extent it's with respect to the transfer, that may be a remedy to not transfer the pilot, but it wouldn't by prima facie facts deny the transfer. It doesn't necessarily, and Corporation Counsel can speak to this, it doesn't necessarily make the financial agreement non-transferable. There's just remedies that would need to be cured or put into effect, or that you can enforce within the agreement. That would just be my one clarification. My client comes seeking the approval for the consent, and to the extent that it is as of right, subject to obviously compliance with laws and of the agreements that you've put in place.
Okay.
Yes, thank you both for clarifying.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, just for the record, I'd like to mark Councilperson Robinson present at 4:18 PM. So we now have all 9 council members present at 4:18 PM. So moving on to our next first reading ordinance, item 3.3, City Ordinance 21-039, is an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting amendments to Chapter 3, Administration of Government, Article 6, Department of Administration, concerning the implementation of the procurement programs for minority, women, veteran, LGBTQ, and disabled-owned vendors.
Questions?
Is there someone here to explain this, or?
Yeah, they have.
Okay. Can we get an explanation of what's being presented?
Ryan?
Hi, I'm here from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Thrive Hebron. If anyone has any questions about the program, guidelines, or anything in the ordinance. I'm here, also our purchasing director, Raquel follows online. If you have any questions for purchasing, and our research team leader, Dr. Line, should be joining the call. I don't know if he's joined yet, but he is going to be available too if there are any questions.
Okay. Questions?
So how did you arrive at your goals as you set forth here in this?
Okay, great question. So this is clearly an amendment. The city has had a good faith effort goal on the books for minority business utilization. I believe it was 20% generally for minority-owned businesses and 5% for women. As you all know, we did conduct a purchasing disparity study, and the recommendations did suggest and support us creating and taking a targeted approach, but also a race-neutral approach to improving our procurement for diverse-owned businesses. So looking at our goals and knowing that the city and the administration wants to expand our supplier diversity utilization to include other groups as well, we looked at what we've done in the past few years. So the purchasing disparity study looks at 2013 to 2018. So we looked at our spend for minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses for 2018, 19, and 2020, and use that to sort of adjust our goals to, one, be still pushing us in the right direction and moving in the right direction, but also being practical so we can actually achieve those goals and move forward and readjust on an annual basis. So we did have, we'll see that the minority-owned category has gone from 20% to 15%. That's because we've added additional groups in there that kind of take up some of our aspirational goals. So overall, we're looking at a goal of spending at least $35 billion, or well, it's really 35% if we're assuming that we spend approximately $100 million per year. So about 35% is our goal for supplier diversity, with 15% going to minority-owned businesses, with 10% going to women-owned, 4% for veteran-owned, and 3% each for disability and LGBT-owned businesses. When you get to counting, some of those will overlap, but that is how we're going to look at the goals and how we're going to count them on our books and in our financial records. So really looking at the past few years, that's how we came up with goals.
Is there a report that shows the current allocations that we have towards each demographic that's viewable, and is there something that I could see or no?
So there is a dashboard that we've been working with the Office of Innovation to kind of fine tune. We've uploaded it with information as current as the first quarter of 2021. So I do have that. I would be able to send that draft. We're still like tweaking some of the just aspects of the website for it to be ready for public view, but we can share that with the council if you guys would like to see where the numbers fall. Yes, of course.
Okay, anyone else?
So in the implementation of the program section, actually, let me take a step back to the goals. So 35% is the cumulative goal among all the categories.
Yes.
Okay. Is that worth elaborating on within the, because as you said, there is overlap, and while it's going to be accepted that there'll be overlap between the different, but the aspirational goal still remains 35%, right?
Well, so, I mean, and I believe when you're wording goals and expectations like this, I don't think that it's actually accurate to say our cumulative goal is 35% because of the overlapping nature. So I do think it is best to say specifically that our goal is this for this number, this for this number, because that kind of does get a bit misleading. And so at the end of the year, you know, someone will look and they'll say, well, did we get to, you know, 35 million? And depending on how you're counting, it might not look that way. I think it is best for us to keep track of our goals and track the progress with each group, to say that this is our collection of goals for each category, and to hone in on, you know, how we're performing in each of those areas.
Okay. When you opened, you said that the goal was 20% initially, and that we had that. Was that in our municipal code, or is that somewhere else?
So currently, the city has a 20% minority business enterprise goal that is in an ordinance for an office that I believe used to exist, that is very similar to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, has similar functions, but that I believe it was never transferred over. We've still been working towards that because it is still city code. But yes, that is an ordinance that has sort of been on the books for years and years. But I guess, you know, hasn't been updated in a long time. But so to go through the proper process of updating those goals, we, of course, you know, did the study, have been tracking our minority-owned business utilization over the past few years. But so yes, that has been on the books. And the law department can clarify like where that is.
Could the law department clarify? You don't have to do it today, but could you provide us a copy of where that currently exists?
Yeah, it's a different part of the code under, like you said, like Soraya said, it's the I think it's the Department of Community Benefit. It's it's the administrative part of the code. I can. I'm sorry, Soraya.
Could you just give it to us, Peter? Just give it to us so we have clarity. Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, this is Councilman Solomon. I apologize. Just this is a clarification question for me to make sure I understand how this program is going to work. So if passed, how do we? I guess how do we ensure that we meet these goals? And then if we don't, what happens at that point?
Okay, so the implementation. Straightforward, clearly, it follows set aside processes that are authorized by the state. And so the set aside is a tool that really is most helpful for the larger contracts that are really going to go through the council and are over $44,000 over our bid threshold. So these goals actually are our broader utilization goals, and the set aside is one tool that is going to help us achieve those goals. So these goals include all of the money that we spend. The set aside really focuses on things that go out to public bid. So really, when we're looking at our purchasing law, it's going to affect the things over $44,000. We currently do have a policy that our business administrator created in February that requires solicitation for diverse businesses, you know, beneath that threshold. So we are doing that as well. That's another tool that's in place and on the books that we've been implementing. But when we're looking at the set aside, how it works is we'll look at what, you know, we need to buy. We'll look at the list that the Office of Diversity and Inclusion maintains. And based on how the book is registered, they'll say, okay, I'm in the automotive industry. You know, we'll look and we'll see, do we have at least 2 diverse businesses that can compete for this bid, that are ready, willing, and able to compete for this bid? They will need to be certified. So currently, we do have a directory that's on the city website that lists businesses that are certified and are self-identified, because previously the certification had a cost. We didn't want to deter anyone, but you must be certified to participate in the set-aside. So if we can identify at least two firms that are any of the diverse categories, okay, so any of them, I will make a recommendation to the business administrator and to the purchasing director that we make this contract a set-aside. They have the authority to decide if they will move forward or not. And if so, we have the power to solicit that bid or contract as a set-aside contract specifically for those certified firms, okay? If we put it out, we get bids, and it essentially limits the competitive environment. And so there's still competition, but it's just for certified diverse firms. Someone wins, you know, and of course the purchasing agent ensures that all of the purchasing rules are still followed. They still have to be responsive and responsible, have all of their criteria. But if we don't get anyone, let's say the 2 that we thought would bid don't, and you know, nothing comes of that, we put it out to regular bid. Anyone can participate now. We do not have to do this for it. So voting on this and enabling the set aside does not mean that every single contract will be a set aside. It will be the ones that make sense. It will be the ones that we have enough businesses for. It's a tool. It's essentially putting a tool in our toolbox that we can pull out and use when we think it's necessary to help us achieve the goal, the goals outlined in the ordinance.
Right. That was very helpful and helped me kind of just sort of conceptually understand the process. Is there anything, you know, that it's a goal, and obviously we're going to shoot for the goal, and now we're putting this tool in our toolbox. If we don't meet the goal, is there anything that happens, right? Is there anything written in the ordinance that says you didn't meet the goal, therefore X happens?
And so no, there is not, because that is an administrative or an administrative decision that would be up to, you know, the council and business administrator, the administration. If a department does not, you know, seem like they're making the good faith effort, or, you know, if the other departments are not doing what they are supposed to do, that is handled similar to, you know, someone not doing their job. You handle it in that way. What are the consequences when you do not do your job? So that is something for the administration or, you know, council to decide. But essentially, you know, my office is there as a support. Right now we, you know, communicate with people in resolution for the resolutions to say, did you, you know, try to find someone? They say, I did, they weren't responsive. And we use that as, you know, tracking of their good faith effort that they tried. So essentially, once we set up the process of how all this is going to be monitored, if we find that, you know, well, purchasing will be managing the set aside. So the set aside should be, you know, straight. It should be, you know, clean cut. But in terms of the lower purchase items, that's really where, Councilman, you'll see more of maybe people not being as tight with their justification or searching for solicitation. So the set aside, though, really doesn't allow room for that, because the state outlines how it should work. And the state outlines it for, yes, minority, women, veteran-owned businesses.
All right, thank you.
Does each department have a report as to, you know, the kinds of the totality of bids they get and how much go to minorities and people of color and all these different demographics? Or is that something that, you know, the council should look into?
Yeah, so over the past, I would say the past year or 18 months, and since we've started doing the report, so as we've done the report, we've learned, and some of our council members have been in on those meetings, and we've learned about different data points that we need to keep track of in our financial system and make sure that they're set up in our financial system accessibly so we can provide better information to our departments, Councilman. So our department does keep track of the dollars spent with businesses that tell us that they are minority, women, veteran owned. But our financial system does not allow us to get that specific and granular. So I know easily, okay, you know, DPW bought, you know, $55,000 worth of screws from a minority-owned business. It's not easy for us to get down to that level. We've been working with IT, with purchasing, and the different teams to look at the software that we have to try and make that easy as possible. Right now, I'll send you guys the link to the dashboard that we have. That really just shows like general spend. We really only have the line items. So all the line items that the council looks at when they approve the budget, those are really the filters that we have to work with. And so that's probably about as specific that we can get. But we have that information and we have been sending that to the departments pretty much on probably like every 6 months just to let them know. But we've been preparing for the study to be finished so we can kind of, you know, shepherd in all the new policies at once.
Okay, thank you.
Director, there does not appear to be a definition section for this ordinance. So is it already written in the former municipal code and in the current municipal code, meaning minority business enterprise, women-owned business enterprise, veteran-owned, etc., and then qualified? That word qualified, are all those written in already, or go ahead.
So I believe that since the law department wrote this with local public contract law in mind, and the set-asides are authorized within New Jersey state local public contracts law, all of the definitions are provided in that document in you know, the state law. And so they define what a minority, woman, veteran, small business, etc. is, what the criteria is, 51% or more ownership. They have their definitions, so I would assume those are the definitions that are being carried over. Whether or not you would like them, I guess, just, you know, transferred to this specific document and language, I think that's something that the law department probably would be able to do or add. Peter, do you have any notes there?
I would say you're correct. It is in the state law. However, we can circulate that. If it's necessary to make a revision that we can put in its specific incorporation by reference, we can do that. We can do that by Wednesday.
If you could, great, to clarify that so that there's no misunderstanding as to what qualifies. If I may, I want to ask you about the implementation of the program. So in reading from the bottom of page 2 into the top of page 3, it talked about you as the director of diversity and inclusion and a purchasing agent designating a contract, subcontract, etc., and to be awarded a qualified minority, women, veteran, LGBT, disability, business enterprise award. You say if the purchasing agent is likely to receive bids from at least 2 qualified such entities at a fair and reasonable price. So where does that purchasing agent receive the bids, and where are those bids coming from? Are they still coming from each of the division directors or office directors, whoever's coordinating those bids, or are those being done by the purchasing agent in your office directly yourself under this implementation?
So that is something that now I'm going to tag team if the purchasing director is on the call. I don't know if she would like to jump in or add her insight now, because the purchasing team does have a process for identifying bidders. So our directory is there, of course, to assist. We haven't, I think we need to, get together and we'll fine tune what our process is, who will chime in at which point of the process. I'm sure it will be both at some point, but we have to narrow down like who's going to check or look first. But Raquel, you'd like to share your thoughts?
Hi, this is Raquel in the purchasing office. I was just going to say exactly what Soraya said, that once we pass this, then she and I will sit together and determine what commodities that we have multiple minority vendors, diverse suppliers for, and then we'll make a determination whether or not this should be set aside, and we'll speak with the VA to make a decision as well.
So does Raquel, then does typically a bid, for example, with a division director would coordinate, I guess, with it's my understanding, with the purchasing. So there's somebody designated in their division to do purchasing for them, right? So are they still managing that function, or is it and then they're bringing the bids to you, and then you're determining whether there's qualified minorities and whether they've done their job, or are you bringing the qualified minorities to them and saying, try to get an informal quote from these folks as well?
Yes, they refer to the end user, what we call the end user. The division or the department comes to us and says, we have a need, and they'll tell us what that need is. And we'll talk about quantities, how much they're going to need, if it's going to go over the threshold or under the threshold. And once we determine, let's say, for example, that it's going to be a bid, we follow the normal protocol as usual. But then Soraya and I will be working together to determine if we can find enough diverse suppliers that we can make this a set-aside program.
So at that point, before they actually go out to bid, you'll determine whether or not it's a set-aside program and that it'll be subjected to finding some qualified minority vendors rather?
Yes, that's the goal. That's the whole goal.
Yeah, and so council, to add, so when what you were just describing, it sounds like a combination. There's like a threshold where up until a certain point, there's informal bidding, where let's say a division has someone in mind and it's underneath the threshold. They'll maybe send in a list of 2 or 3 that they found to purchasing, and so they have already done the legwork at that point. And so hopefully with the policy that we enacted, that the VA enacted in February, they checked the supplier diversity directory, they looked there and considered some of the businesses there, and they were integrated into the process that way. Now, if Raquel and her team determines that this has to go out to public bidding, then we'll, ask the question, well, can we make this a set aside? So that's kind of the relationship between the end user finding people and purchasing, or the Office of Diversity and Inclusion helping to identify the suppliers.
So informal solicitation is not subject to this unless you tell them that they have to convert their informal solicitations into an actual bid. That's the way I heard that.
Yeah, so the bid threshold is one of the main criteria. So if it goes over $44,000, there are also and I don't believe that this applies to pay to play. The law department can correct me. I don't believe that it does, but pay to play, which is the contracts that are over $17,500, but in between, and I know all these numbers are pretty arbitrary and it gets sometimes a little confusing to me, but between $17,500 and $44,000 pay to play contracts, they're currently covered by, once again, the policy that the business administrator created that says you need to be soliciting a quote to at least one diverse supplier and saying, okay, they are qualified and putting them in the running, or maybe they weren't a good fit, but documenting that. So that process is covered by that other policy. This, yes, would only be for the contracts that are above $44,000 that are larger. So it's essentially trying to level the playing field a bit for contracts that usually go to larger firms. If there are firms that maybe could not handle it still, if it doesn't make sense, we won't make it a set aside, but it's a tool that we can have the option to use.
Could we make this, have this apply to contracts below the threshold?
So the point of the set aside is that you are required, so the structure and the implementation is that you make it a public bid, correct? And so for things underneath the threshold, but according to New Jersey purchasing law, we do not have to public bid. And as you guys all know, the public bidding process is very laborious. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of emails and correspondence that take in preparation work to go through that process. So Councilman, what you're suggesting is extending the public bidding process to below the threshold. There currently is a solicitation process that happens, but it's more informal. And so let's say architecture or whoever, if they know firms, they will call them, ask, for a quote, then they might give them a work spec, but it's all done sort of informally. And there's no, solicitation in the newspaper. There is no bid notice. It doesn't have to be approved by me, the law department, tax evasion compliance, So the process is a lot more simple, but they do, yes, have a bit more autonomy over that process. So what you are recommending is extending the requirement to do a formal public bidding process. So public bids and RFPs and competitive contracting, where there's like an advertisement, to a lower threshold. So I just want to clarify, like, that is what I think you're proposing. And so the question could be—
So just to clarify,
is that what you're proposing?
I'm not necessarily proposing that we lower the threshold for more formal bids below that number. What I'm suggesting is, can the set aside be applied to informal solicitations,
Right.
to lower thresholds, right? So such that they have to come up with vendors, potential vendors for informal solicitations from a set aside list, or whatever the terminology is. I don't know what the language is.
So in February, the business administrator sent out a memo that requires all end users to check the supplier diversity directory when they are purchasing or identifying a person to get goods or services from. That was sent out in February. So that policy, I mean, it's not an ordinance, but that policy was sent out, and we've been doing work to, get that rolling. It's not an ordinance though. So I think perhaps that is what I think you're suggesting, maybe to expand some of these recommendations to that threshold. So it has been done from a policy standpoint. It just hasn't been put in an ordinance.
Is there a problem putting it in an ordinance, Peter?
I'll take a look. I'll take a look to see if there are any issues.
Could you take a look, because he wants to go lower? Sure. I understand it.
Yeah, I'll just point out that today's agenda, we've got 4 contracts under informal solicitation, and all those vendor locations are outside of Jersey City. So they're small contracts under $90,000, under $91,000, and I couldn't tell you because I don't have what those specific details are in front of me on those contracts, but I just kind of have those numbers at my stead right now. But there's four just today, so there's not potentially an opportunity under these informal solicitations to find minority owned, women owned, etc. Businesses.
Correct. So Peter, could you find that out? And also, I know the challenge is, how do we incentivize those who purchase to look for minority vendors?
City employees to look for it?
Right, that's what I'm talking about. How do we, I don't want to say enforce, but how do we get them to look for minority businesses also? Because just like Raquel was saying, sometimes they just come to her and say, this is a contractor, or, a business that we've been using, and, we would like to continue to use them, but they may not be minority owned businesses, because we are creatures of habit too. We'll keep doing the same thing. So, what can we put to enforce us making sure that everybody that goes out to purchasing in some way, whether it's a bid or whatever, how you do it, you know, that they are looking at minority-owned businesses also.
So currently, yes, Council President, in the resolution process, I am in the resolution process where when something comes up, I'm asking folks, have you solicited a quote to a diverse, at least one diverse
I know
firm?
you're asking, Soraya. I know you're asking, but they have to, I know you're asking, but I'm just saying we have to find a mechanism to put in place so everyone will know that this is something that they have to do. You shouldn't have to go around and keep policing everybody. That's my thing. And I said that before. You know, like I said, this is the first step, but we really have to do a little more because we just don't want to say we're doing a set aside and there's no enforcement. There's nothing that will, you know, incentivize our directors or whoever purchased for the city to do it. That we have to definitely figure out because you shouldn't have to police them like that. We're going to miss some people because, I mean, it's just too much. Even with purchasing, you know, procurement, they're going to miss some because you're going to get overwhelmed. I think everybody needs to be responsible here. How we can do it. So we just got to come up with more information. This is just a start because we need to have something set aside for those who were forgotten. This is just the first step. This ain't the only step. This is just the first step. So, can we go on now? We got more work to do. We got a lot more to do, even with this. Thank you. Next one, Sean.
Okay.
Okay. Our last first reading ordinance, item 3.4, City Ordinance 21-040 is an ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, New Jersey, providing for various capital improvements for Jersey City and appropriating $86,787,986, therefore, and providing for the issuance of $82,448,586 in general improvement bonds or notes of the City of Jersey City to finance the city.
Who's here?
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. I'll also defer to Carmen as we go along here. But
Okay.
what we're seeing here is a capital improvement program in the amount of $82 million in bonds and issuance. And that's captured under 7 categories. Each category is defined in Section 3. First being allocation with the JC Redevelopment Agency for the pad side building. This would be for the build out of the area. We do have substantial needs in structural, roofing, fire apparatus, and equipment necessary for that facility. So this is purely structural improvements to that entity. Section number 2, we have our continuation of our build out for the city's Skyway Memorial Park. And this continues for the top layer of soil and to match the needs of the tree planting that falls outside of the dollars that we had associated with open space and former capital dollars. The third appropriation we have is for the acquisition interest of land utilized for the city's north and south police districts. We have not identified particular areas for this yet, but this is for the allocation of it. And like this purpose and many other purposes in this ordinance, this is for the issuance, the authorization, not particularly the issuance. So we would not issue debt until we have an agreement in place to acquire those properties, but we are working diligently to find locations for those. Purpose 4 is for 335 Washington Creative Center. This is a property that the city plans to build out for the operation of an arts programming. This was part of a development deal in which they give us basically an empty box and then we would build it out. So that's for the improvements of that. Purpose 5 is for the construction reconstruction, rehabilitation, and improvements to City Hall, 4th floor of City Hall, the build out of a police training facility. This would be particularly like a de-escalation facility in which there'd be advanced training. The city's homeless shelter, again, when we all agree upon the specifics of the city's homeless shelter, we'll build that out. And this also has all of our materials and requirements for engineering to do their streetscapes and continuation of resurfacing throughout the city over the next 2 years. Item number 6 is the acquisition of various vehicles and equipment for particularly for DPW. With this allotment, this would change out all of the old and existing JCIA equipment and snow packaged materials. This was long overdue. We took a look at all of our equipment over at DPW, its useful life, its purpose, and we've established that these are the items that are in desperate need of replacement. And then the operating budget will see a reduction in the appropriation for vehicle maintenance, as we found a trend where we were dumping a lot of money into old vehicles that continuously broke down and had too much wear and tear in them. So we're looking to build that out. And then and then the last purpose here is the purpose for various software, computer equipment, and data line throughout the city buildings. This is the continuation of all of our city-owned desktops, laptops, and services. And I'll defer to Carmen if she has any other comments to add.
Okay. Carmen, you have anything to add?
I said no, he said it all. I'm just here to back him up or answer any questions of the council.
For some of these items, are they already allocated to certain departments? Like, because I know that what's called Department of Recreation needs some vehicles. Is that lumped into the vehicles, or is this like specifically DPW, or did they do like a tally? And I saw that there's a wood chipper in there, a scissor lift. Is this stuff for tree maintenance?
Yeah, yes, Councilman, that's a good question. So all of the citywide vehicles are administered through DPW. So you're going to see vehicles there for Meals on Wheels, which would be Director Flanagan. There's some buses here and vans that are going to be distributed to recreation. And then, as we continue to look here, you'll see, as you mentioned, the wood chippers and the grinders, all the heavy equipment that's used citywide for maintenance.
And I know we bought like snow equipment earlier. That's separate, right? That was a separate expenditure.
Correct. That was off the existing plan.
Okay, thank you.
So before I go into any questions, I just want to point out that the left margin here is cut short. You can't see, so if somebody could fix that so that we can read the left margin of the document. And I'll point out that it's kind of hit or miss with some of these ordinances and resolutions, the formatting on it. I'm going to ask John if you can look at that. Maybe John Mercer or somebody can take a look at that, because it's not. There are some that are really, really bad. Sometimes the formatting, and I was just going through an old ordinance that we passed earlier this year. Chapter 188, and if you go back through that, and I think I mentioned it at the time, that the ordinance is just filled with formatting problems all over the place, and it just looks bad publicly for us. So
we'll see if we can get a dedicated margin that would satisfy those issues.
That being said, I'm going to just go down the line and I'll start, but I'm sure other folks have other questions. But I'm going to start in the Pathside building, number 1. I've asked in the past repeatedly for additional information on that, did get a memo on it. And there's no real identified cultural partner at this point. and no plans as to whether or not, kind of what direction is going to go, and yet we're being asked to invest $15 million. Can you speak to that? And, when we first approved this back in, I think I want to say it was 2018, and move forward with the acquisition, which I approved at the time too. The rationale, I remember conversations about it saying that, this was going to be self-sustaining, and yet here we stand several years later and investing.
Oh,
We're investing up to $15 million. I forget what the acquisition cost was here. Was it 10 million for the acquisition cost? If somebody could provide that, because when I got the memo, the only financials was something like $60-something thousand expended, and I asked for an accounting of everything from the bond and the acquisition cost to all of it. I'd still like to request for that information as well. But if you could just speak to that and the idea that how we justify the investment of an additional $15 million with no discernible plan at this point or identifiable cultural partner.
Sure, Councilman. So the $15 million is a X for permission. It's not necessarily going to be a spend down, or the bonds will not be issued until we do have a definite plan. JCRA and the city have been working diligently on identifying that cultural partner, and these dollars would be used dedicated to the work that's required in that building to use it as the cultural program arts facility that we wish to have for the public. So as I mentioned before, it needs desperate repair of the roof. There's some foundation issues, fire apparatus. So those types of things would be what the dollars are for, regardless of who the vendor is, as long as it's still the idea that we're going to continue to use this as a cultural center, and those dollars wouldn't be bonded until that's identified.
So just for the record, and I'm just going to make a point here, which is that with the approval of $15 million in bonding and capital costs, we're essentially committing to the cultural partner, regardless of without having seen any information about who that cultural partner is or what the plan would be and how it would be self-sustaining financially. And that's, you can comment on it if you care to, but it's not really intended as a question. It's just intended to be a comment. I'm happy to move on if there's other.
No one else? Go ahead. Who was that?
Yeah, just on the north and south districts, can we get a breakdown of kind of the estimated cost for land acquisition and as well as all of the work and services necessary that would accompany this capital expenditure? And do you have certain locations in mind for the south in particular? I know there's been talk about the north. I'm not familiar with the south discussions.
We haven't looked at a few different locations and discussed whether the owners would be interested in developing those facilities. The dollars that we're asking for in this appropriation of the ordinance is solely based off of the idea of what we need for square footage, and then what the price point would be around that area. But we'll give you a breakout of the two. As you said, we know more about the north than we do the south. So the north is a little bit more concrete and the south is a little more speculative, but based on a range of where we think it'll land as far as the need of space in that area.
Council President.
Yeah.
Yeah, BA, I just want to know, like, how far in advance, if this was to be approved, how far in advance do you let us know that we're about to spend these dollars? Do we do this come back in front of us for another vote, or once we approve this, it's over and you get to, I guess, pay for the south and the north and, anything else without?
That's a good question, Councilman. So, with this authorization, the next thing would be the purchase of the land and the land agreement. So we'd go through that with the council, and then that's when we'd issue the money to satisfy the need.
Is there a vote for the land acquisition or any buying computers, or so if we're upgrading all of the computers, I know you said something about computers earlier and laptops, do we get to vote on that, or is it out of our hands once we vote for this?
No, Councilman, you would vote on the contract that we would be issuing pursuant to those dollars.
No matter the amount.
And well, anything above 44,000.
Yeah.
And Councilman, with an ordinance like this or any financial ordinance, the purposes that we put in these particular subsections is the only purposes that the dollars are allowed to be used for. So there wouldn't be, a process of saying, oh, we have money for computers, but we went and spent it on a park or anything like that. We'd have to come back to council and say, we did not use these dollars, or we didn't need these dollars for the computers. We'd like to reassign them to this park. And that process is done through, an audit, an annual audit that would identify if dollars were allowed to be used or not allowed to be used.
And is there a expiration date? Is there a cutoff for these? I guess if we vote today, can the next council 20 years from now, are these dollars still available?
They are available, but again, they would have to come back to the council for the agreements to expend those dollars.
So I just asked, is there an expiration date? So in 20 years, it will just come back. So these bonds are good infinitely, infinite.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'll have to check as far as 20 years. I don't think we've ever did a bond where they waited to 20 years, because there's obviously some kind of near-term need for the dollars. But we've had two circumstances where dollars were identified, bonded for, and then if they weren't needed, they were canceled and used for another purpose. Or we've had authorized but never issued, meaning that there was authorization that was continuous, like you said, the 20 years, but the bonds were never sold, so there was no debt issued upon those.
And how would they be canceled? Do it go back in front of the council?
It goes before council again. Yes, council.
Okay. Someone else?
Councilman
Go ahead,
Solomon,
James.
go ahead.
Sure. So this is Councilman Solomon. The BA Metro, who's the lead in the city on the 335 Washington project?
This is kind of something that just came about, but myself and Christine Goodman have been working with the mayor's office, and we took a look at the location recently, and we're going to continue working with those developers on a plan and costs.
Is this Matt Calley?
I don't believe it is Matt Calley, but I'll get you the. Yeah, I met the individual as an individual, not as the entity, but I'll get you the background on the ownership.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll also give you a call on to discuss it as well.
Okay.
For the both number 5 and number 6, the building repairs and the vehicles, can you give us a spreadsheet that details the current, projected spends on each item, so we can sort of know? I know it may change, but what we have a sense of at least how we're thinking about allocating the money to these different facilities?
Yeah, that's fine, Councilman. I just asked that the council keep this internal, as we don't want to necessarily indicate how much we have for an open contract. But yeah, I'm happy to share that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to keep it internal, and whatever the law department needs us to do, I'm happy to do. And then on number 5, for the different uses for the city homeless shelter, is this a shelter above and beyond the St. Lucie shelter that is going to be constructed?
This is in partnership with the housing authority. The drop-in center, correct? Sorry.
Okay, so this is the drop-in center at Hudson Gardens.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, understood. And my understanding is there wasn't a shelter component to that. It was the drop-in center component. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, I think for bonding purposes, they identified as a quote-unquote shelter.
Okay, I just want to make sure there wasn't a new shelter I was unaware of.
No, it's that one.
Okay, great. I think those are all my questions for now, but I'll connect with you, BA, on the 335 Washington, and then I will also, once I see the spreadsheet, I'm sure I'll have some questions as well.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Someone else?
So just on 335 Washington Creative Center.
Mhm.
So is that literally at 335 Washington?
Correct, Councilman. It's the back end of the building, across the street from the powerhouse.
And so we own a unit there or a condo or whatever however the deal is, or
So I believe it's 8 or 10,000 square feet of the back room. It's formerly a pump station, I believe, or some kind of generator facility that is not being utilized. It's in pretty bad shape. If we do build it out, it would need some serious work. So that's why we met with the individuals to kind of look over it. But essentially, what you can think about it, if you looked at it conceptually, it's kind of like a warehouse, so to speak. Pretty empty, but does need some dire work if we are to build it out.
but do we own it or are we leasing it?
I believe it's part of a redevelopment plan. I'll get you all the details on it, but I believe that it's going to be handed over to the city, or it's already in with the JCRA. I'll find out.
Yeah, Rolando, the BA can get us the specific details, but the powerhouse redevelopment plan has a clause in it that basically says if some private entity takes it, redevelops it, gives it to the city, then there's some arrangement, and I forget all the details, but it's written into the patent of redevelopment plan.
Okay, I mean, if somebody can explain that to me, just how that how we came to the 10,000 square feet and ownership of that property, I guess. Just as a follow-up to Councilman Solomon's on the breakdown of, so this police training facility, where is this anticipated to be, or?
So it's slated for the record retentions facility down at the DPW complex. Are looking to retrofit that facility and to build out some training facilities and classrooms in that area.
So would this training facility then train, as opposed to us sending recruits out for training, is this replacing that, or is this a supplement to that?
It's a supplement, Councilman. It's not necessarily an academy. It's more of an internal training facility. Scenario situations, hostage negotiations, those types of additional training layers that would be required by the local units.
And it's also for qualifications as well. Every officer needs to be qualified, so they use this establishment for qualifications. I think they're supposed to qualify. Not sure if it's a quarterly or every 6 months, but they'll be using that.
So I'm just kind of backing into the numbers here. It's the city homeless shelter. We were told it was about $2 million. So with 39 million for City Hall and a police training facility, we're talking about what, nearly 37 million between the two of them.
And there's a substantial piece there for engineering's cost. I'll give it the breakdown. That's for all street resurfacing over the next 2 years.
Oh, is that street resurfacing in here too?
Yes, Councilman.
That's in number 5?
In number 5, I'll give you the breakdown in that spreadsheet that Councilman requested.
Okay, it does not indicate street resurfacing. Can we update that language to include that?
Yeah, no problem with that, Councilman. Sure.
Yeah, that's great. I was just going to ask if we're going to repair some of our streets. That's great. And then lastly, for me,
sorry, Councilman, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just for your purposes, I'll give you the spreadsheet, but about 25 of that amount is for the engineering.
Is for the what?
Engineering, for the street resurfacing and streetscapes.
25 million?
Of the 39, yes.
Okay, all right. That's more in line, I think. So by my calculation, and if the last line and under each, it says down payment among each of the numbers, is that down payment?
Correct, Councilman. Yeah, the state requires 5% down payment on all capital issuances.
Right. So the total here for the nearly $87 million, we'll be doing a down payment of 4.5 million in 2021. Is that
correct, Councilman?
Okay. And then can you give me a sense of what the number will be if we should assume this capital bond what is the cost to the city annually to continue to pay this bond?
Mhm.
You could provide me with that.
Yeah, sure, Councilman. If I ballparked it, I'll give you the exact numbers with the financial analysis. But if you ballpark it with the useful life of each one of these projects between 15 years and 40 years, bonded out at the time that they're required, it's approximately $3 million annually. I'll give you the exact number, and that would be paid over the life of each term. And you know, we do have a significant change in debt service in the next few years coming up in a positive way, that debt service is going down as we lose some of the transition year bonds, and we wish to absorb those with this new bond issuance.
Okay, all right. Thank you, John. Okay, Sean.
Oh, boy.
Okay, to our second reading ordinances, item 4.1, City Ordinance 21-032 is an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting the Central Avenue Block 2901 redevelopment plan. Item 4.2, City Ordinance 21-033 is amendments to the Jackson Hill redevelopment plan boundary to include the Sacred Heart campus as part of the historic neighborhood mixed use zone and incorporate inclusionary zoning requirement. Item 4.3, City Ordinance 21-035 is an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting amendments to the Jersey Avenue Light Rail redevelopment plan regarding overlay bonuses, affordable housing, school development bonuses, and general update to standards and regulations.
Just colleagues on this one, we had mentioned at the first reading, there had been some concerns raised from some of the tenant leaders. Director Brady Phillips drafted a response, which if you haven't seen, I'm happy to forward. And then I just heard back today from those tenant leaders again, and we're happy to sort of share some of their responses with everybody. And I'll reach out to the director and the council president tomorrow to sort of talk through those responses, and then try to touch base with each of you to give you an update tomorrow.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can I just ask, Councilman Solomon, is it, are they generally satisfied with the resolutions at this point, or?
So they were satisfied with a number of the answers, and Director Brady Phillips answered a bunch. There were three outstanding issues that they wanted to continue to discuss, and whether that comes in this redevelopment plan or in further discussions, I think that's what I really need to talk through. But the three issues briefly were questions around the kind of unit mix when folks come back, that they're overcrowding the families, and they want to make sure that the overcrowding can be ended when they come back. There's a request for 2 members of the Holland Gardens community to be part of the RFP committee that the Housing Authority will have. And then the third one, I believe, was sort of creating a date on when the full right to return policy will be drafted by the Housing Authority. And I just got that a second ago. So.
Okay.
Well, all of this can also be a conversation if they meet with their commissioners and put it in an MOU, correct?
I think so. And I think that's the conversation I think to have tomorrow with everybody and figure out where we're going.
Right, that's what I think they need to do. This way they'll have it in writing, and their commissioners, just like we vote on resolutions, they vote too. So I just think it's important for the housing commissioners to put some of their concern in writing. So.
I have a question unrelated to what Councilman Solomon raised. So this is to the law department as well as to planning, but I think maybe the law department's more applicable to him. So if these 3 redevelopment plans are adopted rather, the Central Avenue, Jackson Hill, and Jersey Avenue Light Rail, and each of them have references to the application of the inclusionary zoning ordinance, Chapter 8187, which was adopted in October of 2020. Hypothetically, if that inclusionary zoning policy, meaning Chapter 187, should be amended, how would that impact the RDPs if they were adopted on Wednesday? So if they're amended later after Wednesday, meaning Chapter 187. And so let me give you a hypothetical. As we all know, Fair Share Housing Center has sued the city with regard to the adoption of Chapter 187 and the IZO. Part of it has to do with their argument around community benefits. I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that they're contesting the section, particularly around community benefits, and one of the things that they're looking at, with that being the most substantive issue. And if the courts were to render a decision at some point down the line, it doesn't look like it would be anytime soon. And if that decision should hypothetically delete those community benefits provision from the inclusionary zoning policy, like what impact would that have on the areas of the Jersey Avenue light rail, which provides bonus provisions for schools and light rail development, as well as for the Central Avenue block 2901, which has the parking provision, the parking lot provisions. And then I could also say, like, if hypothetically, whether it's this council or another council in the future, if some of the minimums right now, the inclusionary zoning ordinance requires 20% affordable housing, but a minimum of 5%, that a development can then reduce that minimum through 3 ways: the payment in lieu, the building off site, and community benefits. If hypothetically a future city council were to amend that to change those minimums from 5% to a larger number, like I proposed in last October, of increasing it to 20%, say in downtown specifically, like what impact would that have on the Jersey Avenue light rail redevelopment plan if that change were adopted at a later date after these redevelopment plans were adopted?
Okay, I don't want to give an off-the-cuff answer, so I think I'll need to take a little time to analyze that and get back to you, because there are a lot of moving pieces in the scenario that you proposed. So I'll take a look at that. We'll get something to you by Wednesday morning and give you a chance to review that.
Okay, I'll forward you my email that I sent to planning, which I just sent them this afternoon. So
okay,
I'll just add one thing. The only place where that is not applicable is the light rail bonus, because the light rail bonus isn't tied to the inclusionary zoning. It's the bonus for the 10% on site and the light rail development. And I believe that's regulated by 188, which is not connected necessarily.
okay, thank you, Tanya.
Okay. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, the last second reading ordinance is item 4.4, City Ordinance 21-036 is an ordinance adopting amendments to the land development ordinance regarding applications, checklist, notice, waste management, review, procedure, and hearing requirements. Okay, moving on. Public requests for speakers, petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.9. Any questions or comments? There's only one office communications and there's no report of directors. We have our claims, which are attached, and we'll move right on to the resolutions. So first resolution, item 10.1, City Resolution 21-391 is a resolution renewing professional service agreement with the law firm of Njsa, Denian and Hillman to represent police officer Martin Ortundo in the matter of Jonathan Sanders versus the City of Jersey City.
Yeah, so this is just a renewal of a previous contract, which has been ongoing for a couple of years now. Obviously, this is another victim of the court operation slowdown in light of COVID. However, the federal courts in Mass are going to be renewing jury trials starting probably August or September. So this one might be disposed of. This is an older case, so this might be disposed of coming up in the fall. Nevertheless, this is a conflict case. We've been conflicted out of representing the named defendant in this matter due to a law of department disciplinary, and so the matter had to be referred to outside counsel.
So you said something there that just triggered a little flash bulb in my head, light bulb rather. Since so many of our court cases are being deferred due to COVID, I just want to ask John Metro if we've explored the idea of some of our court costs, whether it would be applicable to having it be covered by some COVID-related dollars, given the extensions and so forth that need to happen? Is there some way to make that argument? And I'm just throwing it out there to get creative with how we try to fund some of our.
Yeah, John, I can discuss that with you. I think, you know, I'm in the interest of being creative as well. I think, you know, we can look into that. I'm not sure what the metes and bounds of the, you know, COVID reimbursement is, but, you know, I think we can have that conversation.
Yeah, we're taking a look at that and other options. And then Councilman, any lost revenue, I know we don't have our courts based on revenue, but there is a byproduct of the courts that is revenue, is applicable for the American Rescue money as well. So that's something we're looking into as well, both sides of the appropriation and the revenue.
And, you know, to clarify, like, for example, on this matter, you know, although this has been, you know, not wholly in stasis, there's been, you know, some, you know, there have been some proceedings that have taken place, status conferences, et cetera. But it's not as if a clock is ticking and, you know, the attorneys get paid for the work they do, not for the time they have the case. So if they have the case and nothing happens for a month, they don't do any work on the file for a month, we don't pay them for that month. They only get paid for the work they actually perform. So, you know, that being said, it is, you know, not, you know, the stretching it out in time does not necessarily indicate a substantial increase in costs. But I think abstractly, if there are more conferences, status conferences, et cetera, that might bump up the cost slightly. So John, I can talk to you about, you know, what our thoughts are on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 10.2, resolution 21-392 is a resolution authorizing refunds due to overpayments for payroll taxes.
Thank you, Sean. This was an item that, excuse me, JCFD behind me. This particular entity made a duplicate tax payment in the first quarter of their payroll tax. We identified that we did receive both payments, and we're going to provide one back, a back issuance, and keep the one in the amount of $18,000.
Okay, item 10.3, resolution 21-393 is a resolution authorizing the settlement of assessment appeals filed before the tax court of New Jersey on various property. Item 10.4, resolution 21-394 is a resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage affecting real property located at 42 Ferncliff Road, Jersey City, New Jersey. Item 10.5, resolution 21-395 is a resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage for 62 Stegman Street. Item 10.6, resolution 21-396 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a mortgage subordination affecting the property known as 10 Rose Avenue. Item 10.7, resolution 21-397 is a resolution authorizing the city of Jersey City to accept a gift of bas relief sculpture from the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, large number 211. Items 10.8 and 10.9. These are resolution adopting and ratifying the 2021-2022 budget of the Exchange Place Alliance Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City, and the resolution accepting the assessment role in Exchange Place Alliance Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Those are resolutions 21-398 and 399. Unfortunately, there was inadvertently on the assessment roll, there was a block and 3 lots that were still kept in the assessment roll, but was eliminated last year. So we're going to have to, I'm going to recommend if the business administrator would be kind enough to withdraw these items so we can resend these notices and re-advertise the assessment roll and the budget correctly.
Yeah, that's correct, Sean, and Council President and council members, we did go back, tax assessor's office went back and changed their assessment roles to reflect this. However, we do have to re-advertise, so we'll be bringing this back.
So I'll also mark where it says Special Improvement District, the public hearing, I will mark that canceled. We're gonna probably shoot for a June 30th date. The June 30th meeting, okay? Item 10.10, Resolution 21-400. The resolution of the City of Jersey City and County of Hudson, New Jersey, authorizing an application to the local finance board pursuant to NJSA 40A semicolon 2.2-51 and NJSA 40A semicolon 11-4C.
Thanks, Sean. This is a request for the city to submit an application to local finance board and pursuant to our ESIP, our energy savings and improvement plan that we look to proceed on. They'll take a look at the particular reasons for the bonding and check with the third-party administrator to make sure that the savings will offset any bonds that would be issued.
So how does this work? If we receive authorization to issue, we're looking to the state to approve us to issue bonds, is that?
Yeah, correct, Councilman, because these are particular use for these green bonds. Basically, refunding bonds, any bonds that they look at as refunding bonds have to be reviewed and approved by the state prior to any authorizations. So they're going to take a look at it. This is, we asked the council to, for permission to send it to the state, that you acknowledged it, and they'll take a look at it and make sure that basically third party verify that the information is accurate, and there will be a cost savings that would cover all the debt that's issued.
So is the cost savings then still paid? I'm trying to figure out, is the bond paid for by the city or the state, or what's the incentive here for this?
So if approved by the state and the blessing was issued, it would come back to the city for bonding potential. Issued by the city.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not allowed to issue refunding bonds without state approval. So unlike general obligation bonds, like the one we saw in the first reading, where the city council has the authority to authorize, because these are specific to the structure of the financing of them, and meaning that the third party verification that the money will be reimbursed, the state has to take a look at it to make sure, it's on the up and up, so to speak.
Got it.
Okay, item 10.11, resolution 21-401 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Something to Talk About Marketing LLC for the production and delivery of COVID-19 vaccine card holders.
So that's the, we ordered 50,000 of them when we started hearing individuals starting to laminate their cards. We didn't want that to happen. There's about 4,000 in my office, if anyone wants to help distribute to those who have already been vaccinated, but they're at every vaccine site. Something to Talk About is a women minority-owned business, and they've been quick for a turnaround and had this readily available.
Now, Stacy, question.
Yeah.
You said you didn't want them to laminate it. Is there a reason why you don't want them laminated?
Yeah, because the CDC hasn't come up with any follow-up to boosters for any particular COVID vaccine at this time. There's been talk that there's going to be a Pfizer booster within the year, but because we don't know, this sort of acts like a COVID-related WHO card. So if you don't have a World Health Organization immunization card, this is sort of that rule. So there was like miseducation from the governor's office telling people to laminate it, and that's just not what the CDC said. So anyone that has laminated it, we will make them a new card at one of our sites. You know, we'll give them a card holder so that they can protect it.
Thanks.
Okay, item 10.12, resolution 21-402 is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing submission of the fiscal year 2021 Community Service Block Grant application to the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. Item 10.13, resolution 21-403 is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City amending the acceptance and execution of COVID-19 CARES Act funds for the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS grant and authorizing program contracts under the program year April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2022.
Carmen? I actually have just a general question. Not related necessarily to this, but the city council had authorized those funds for the, I think it was like $7 million through the treasury stuff around rental assistance and so forth.
Yep.
Have we issued that? Have we been issuing those monies or?
So not yet. We're still managing through the CDBG portion of rent relief. The second installment of the treasury dollars, which is the $7.7 million that we have, is currently under contract review with the Housing Authority. That's who we've decided to take on the second phase of it. So that's kind of sort of where we're at. We're hoping to get some things wrapped up sooner rather than later as we're going into phase 2.
Who's administering it? Is it those 4 nonprofits again, or some?
Yep, the Housing Authority.
The Housing Authority. Okay.
They're our additional partner. So we're working like in collaborations, like with MOUs between the nonprofits, between the Housing Authority, as they're all working through their existing pipeline and what we plan to do in this phase 2. But the monies, the grant monies is here. We're just doing contract review and hoping to schedule a call with the Housing Authority as we allocate these funds and the program again.
So what's the expected date for people to apply for that fund, those funds for temporary rent assistance?
I mean, if I had to say projectedly, I mean, I would say let's shoot for the end of June, but I do have Samantha here with me. Sam, I don't know if we're in discussions. I mean, we're going to Memorial Day weekend. We're in conversation with the Housing Authority, but realistically, let's just say a month, just say a July 1 start date. But Sam, I don't know, you had a call, anything to provide?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to inform the council that there was a little bit of delay because Treasury was not clear with the guidance on how we should proceed as far as compliance goes. And so before contracting with the Housing Authority, we wanted to make sure that on our end that we were able to kind of contract, and the at least on the second end, any kind of compliance issues was discussed beforehand.
So wait, let me ask a question. So when it comes to rent relief, Housing Authority is the one that's going to be responsible for it?
In the second, yes. Yeah.
And so everyone would have to apply through Housing Authority?
Yes.
Okay. Instead of the 4 entities that we had before?
Yeah, yeah. Right now, our nonprofits, I mean, you could just undertake the volume, right? In phase 1
Right.
with CDBG, we had 1,600 households, 1,638 to be exact, that we're working towards. Over the last couple of months, they've been working on getting people expended, and I will say that we're maybe a third way through. Is that right, Sam? Right, like our nonprofits are about to invoice.
Yes, they're about a third of ways through their funding.
Yeah, and assisting the households. We're about like what, 300, 400 households in?
They each have a total of 400 households. And because of the continuous back and forth that they've had to do with clients and landlords, it's been a little bit more of a case management between the agencies, so they are at reaching their capacity as well. So the decision to go with the housing authority was because we have kind of stretched our agencies.
Wow. I'm just thinking, well, what about, because this is a huge undertaking, because I know I'm receiving calls about, you know, people needing rent relief, and I've been giving them different agencies, but I didn't know housing authority was just going to be the main focus here. And so I guess that they would have to.
That's in phase 2, right? So
That's phase 2.
Our partnerships, like we're working with our nonprofits and the housing authority.
Okay.
Like, so we're going to steward all those relationships between referrals and being able to help. But realistically, like if we would have gone open, let's just say next month, and then added more of a caseload to our nonprofits, we would have overexpended them. We would be really behind the 8 ball. So we got another partner, and you have to remember the housing authority, Jersey City Housing Authority, is the largest, you know, the largest housing authority, and they work in this space. So they've undergone and upgraded the software they're going to be using. They've staffed up to this end, and so with our nonprofit partners, like Division of Community Development created everything. We created the fact sheets, the marketing. We got them ready, and so we needed another partner that was going to get us there along the line. We developed the application. We set forth the policy. We set forth the criteria. We asked our nonprofits to, in a uniform format, to carry out our phase 1. In phase 2, we needed another partner that could just take this what we've already developed and continue it. And I will say, you know, there is a phase 3. Treasury is getting us more dollars for rent relief that's coming, that we've already applied us for, and you know, now exploring, do we bring another partner in? You know, not knowing what $7 million is going to bring. We've got $7 million that's here, and potentially another $6 million that's coming in rent relief. So I think we have to test it. We're doing our planning processes now as to who might be the third partner, or do we go back to our nonprofits in that partnership. So those are all things that we're examining at the division level, and under Sam's leadership, and so we're working on just trying to get through what we got through. CDBG was only $2.5 million, and we launched in January, closed in February. We've been processing March, April, and it's now May, and they're getting through invoicing the division to pay out because they've paid out some households already. So it's really the paperwork and the case management, right? There's just a lot of case management that is needed under these times.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Sean.
Okay, item 10.14, resolution 21-404. It's a resolution authorizing the acceptance of a grant award from New Jersey Department of Health, Division of HIV, STD, and TB Services.
This is just a standard annual grant. It starts July 1st. This funds the city clinic staffing, the disease investigation specialist that pivoted in the beginning of COVID to support COVID, and now we're back to STD testing and treatment, and we end our grant cycle June 30th and start again July 1.
Okay.
Okay, item 10.15, resolution 21-405 is a resolution ratifying a contract with the Act Now Foundation for Senior Dementia Prevention Program for the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior Citizen Affairs and Food and Nutrition.
So we started this senior dementia prevention program last year. It went really well, and they pivoted with us nicely onto online support services. Obviously, senior isolation during COVID is a really important component of our work. We'd like to continue this because they are really supportive, and we already have a grant from the county to do senior work. And then in the new year, when the county puts out an open grant for socialization. We expect Act Now to apply on their own to continue this work countywide, but this is the Jersey City portion of their work.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, item 10.16, resolution 21-406 is a resolution authorizing a one-year renewal of a contract with Multimedia Solutions Corporation for the maintenance of the healthierjc.com website for the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yes, so if you've not visited healthierjc.com, this website we started several years ago with a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. It is a portal for nonprofits across Jersey City to utilize a calendar, post some success, added blogs, and most recently during COVID, added mental health services, referral sources. In addition, since COVID, we've added about 140 new partners to the website. The maintenance grant and work was ended at the end of last year. We'll be using COVID funds to pay for this because we really believe that the more communication and outreach we have of resources for the community would be most helpful.
All right.
Okay, item 10.17, resolution 21-407. It's a resolution rejecting the three bids received by the city of Jersey City on May 13th, 2021 for a contract known as the Summer Food Service Program.
So I don't know if Raquel is still on the call, but two of the bidders didn't present all of their information, and one of them was well over the cost of the program itself. So we have to go back out to bid for this.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Stacey. Okay, on to item 10.18, resolution 21-408. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Cellco Partnership Verizon Wireless for cellular service under state contract with the Department of Public Safety Communications Center. Item 10.19, resolution 21-409 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Turnout and Fire and Safety for protective gear and equipment for firefighters under state contract with the Department of Public Safety Division of Fire. Item 10.20, resolution 21-410. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Dennis J. McSweeney Dog Training LLC for the monthly canine training and evaluations for the Department of Public Safety Division of Police. Item 10.21, resolution 21-411. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Tomahawk Defense LLC for the purchase of Blue Can and Shermia 300 through the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, Bergen County Corporation, maybe, for the Department of Public Safety Division of Police.
Can someone just explain what those two things are?
We have somebody here.
I'm not sure if Billy's still on the line, if he could help facilitate this.
If he's called in, I needed to mute the callers before, so *6 will unmute you.
Bill, if you're there, if you can just *6 and that will unmute yourself. I do see, a telephone number there, and it is muted. Bill, if you're there, if you can unmute yourself just by pressing *6. Or *6.
Councilman, if you might, I'll give him a call and tell him to recall in, and if we can just continue, and we'll get right back to him.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to 1020 and 1021. So
Okay.
moving on to 1022, Resolution 21-412 is a resolution approving the appointment of Brett Miller to the Community Advisory Board for the Open Space Trust Fund. Okay, item 10.23, Resolution 21-413 is a resolution of the City of Jersey City authorizing the circulation of a preliminary official statement and final official statement in connection with the sale of city's bond anticipation notes series 2021B and special emergency notes series 2021C, and approving a continuing disclosure certificate with respect to said notes of the city and authorizing and/or ratifying other actions in connection therewith. Item 10.24, Resolution 21-414 is a resolution authorizing the addition of the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency and the Martin Luther King Drive Urban Renewal Joint Venture Partnership as an additional insured parties in connection with the painting of a mural on a wall located on the trash enclosure structure at 280 Martin Luther King Drive.
Go ahead.
Okay, item 10.25, Resolution 21-415 is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to execute a gift and license agreement with the Feo Holdings Limited Partnership and JSF Municipal CMPI LLC in connection with the consent and to design and install a Welcome to Jersey City sign on the property located near Municipal Avenue and State Highway 440. Item 10.26, Resolution 21-416 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Jean's Landscaping for fertilizing, seeding, and aeration throughout various Jersey City parks for the Department of Public Works Division of Park Maintenance. Item 10.27, Resolution 21-417, the resolution authorizing a month-to-month extension not exceeding 3 months, effective as of March 15, 2020, of a contract with Alterland U.S. Northeast LLC, formerly known as Temco, Building Maintenance to provide janitorial services for the Department of Public Works Division of Buildings and Street Maintenance.
So this is going back to October 2018. We're month to month here. I think by my count, if it's something between 7 to 8 resolutions authorized by the council to do month to month extensions. Can we get an explanation as to when will this come to a resolution?
Yeah, Councilman, I can't speak prior to when I took over earlier this year, but for this extension here, this will be the last extension with this entity. We'll either bring this in-house as we look at cost projections, or we'll send it out for an official bid. They were extending, pursuant to the agreed upon cost time over time. So we continue to provide that service at the same cost, but at this point, we're either going to evaluate bringing it in-house or sending it out to a new RFP process.
Sorry, according to this resolution, we can only authorize an extension if we are going out for our RFP process. In fact, I think I read that in the second to last whereas, I think it's the New Jersey NJAC requires that any change order which increases the contract. No, I'm sorry. Authorizes a contract extension provided the city has commenced the rebidding process. So the assumption here is that you have commenced the rebidding process if we're authorizing this.
Yeah, Councilman, yeah, Councilman, we can either do the RFP, or we could bring it in-house. Either way, I think that citation is just to make sure that there's a future action in which the extension won't continue. I'll have law department review it.
Please do. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Item 10.28, Resolution 21-418. It's a resolution awarding the contract to Sports Pros USA, Inc. for the maintenance of basketball courts throughout various Jersey City parks for the Department of Public Works Division of Park Maintenance. Item 10.29, Resolution 21-419, the resolution authorizing an award of a contract to Northeast Auto and Truck Parts LLC for the purchase and delivery of fluids and lubricants through Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative Contract number 062916-GTC for the Department of Public Works Division of Automotive Maintenance. Item-
Sean,
Yep.
can I just interrupt to go back to 1028? John, if they can, with respect to this, if Department of Parks, if Sammy could just send me a list of what are the various parks that they actually look at, because there's some parks throughout the city that I think that, need to be looked at with respect to maintenance as well. So I just want to make sure that they're on, if they have a list, if they're on that list, if not, if we can get them on the list.
Yeah, I'll ask him for a master maintenance schedule.
All right, thanks.
Okay, item 10.30, Resolution 21-420 is a resolution of authorizing the award of a contract to Public Service and Electric and Gas Company in connection with the facility modification on Central Avenue Streetscape Phases 2 and 3, project number 18-017-E for the Department of Administration, Division of Engineering. Item 10.31, Resolution 21-421 is a resolution authorizing the award of professional engineering services contract to Santec Consulting Services for the on-call traffic engineering services, project number 21-004-T for the Department of Administration, Division of Engineering, Traffic and Transportation. Item 10.32, Resolution 21-422 is a resolution authorizing the award of professional service agreement to Colliers Engineering and Design, Maser Consulting, for the implementation of operations and maintenance plan for the remainder of the 2021 through the first quarter of 2022 on the PJP landfill site, project number 10-018 at 400 Sip Avenue, Groups 1 and 9 for the Department of Administration, Division of Engineering, Traffic and Transportation. Item 10.33, Resolution 21-423 is a resolution authorizing the award of a professional service contract to Engineering and Land Planning, Inc. in connection with the architectural and engineering services for Leonard Gordon Park, Phase 1 site lighting and circulation improvements, project number 2020-011 for the Department of Administration, Division of Architecture. Item 10.34, Resolution 21-424 is a resolution authorizing the renewal of professional service agreement with Abruzzi, McDermott, Mastro, and Murphy, PC, to represent the City of Jersey City in various union negotiations. Item 10.35, Resolution 21.
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt on the union negotiations? Do we have outstanding contracts that we resolve the municipal courts administrators?
I can follow up on that.
Okay.
You said the municipal court administrators?
I believe that's what it was. I believe the council received it might be a little older. I don't recall when I saw the letter. I was just reminded of that, seeing.
Okay, I'll see what's outstanding right now.
All right, please.
Okay. Item 10.35, Resolution 21-425 It's a resolution ratifying the renewal of professional service agreement with the law firm of Florio, Kenny, and Raval, LLP, to serve as special counsel to represent the city of Jersey City in tax appeals.
I can just bring everyone up to speed on this one. As you know, it's been, over a year now. We've been in the process of phasing out the tax appeals to outside counsel. They're currently, bear with me one second, I have the email here. There's currently just under 2,800 tax appeals pending in state court. Just under 1,900 of them are being handled in-house right now, leaving about 900 approximately remaining with outside counsel. And we expect over the next year or two that will be whittled down to close to zero.
Okay.
Item 10.36, Resolution 21-426 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Tomahawk Defense LLC for the carbine pistol instruction for the Department of Public Safety, Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
Anybody here yet?
Council President, it looks like we're having some technical issues with Billy, but I could speak on this, and then if there's any particular questions, we could follow up. This was for the preparation of a 5-day course of instruction for our 30 students to deal with tactical best practices, techniques, and real-world hostage situation. And then the second part of the training was for large-scale incident response and best practices pursuant to site management when there is an event.
Okay.
Since we're having technical difficulties, if any council member has a question on items 10.20 and 10.21, just send them to Bill O'Donnell and copy our business administrator, and I'm sure Bill will be able to answer your questions. All right. The very last. Go ahead.
I could just ask on of the BA on 10.21, just what account number we're looking at. It's a reserve account. If I could get the balances on that reserve account and what that account is specifically.
Yes, Councilman, I'm just looking it up now. Yeah, I'll get you. It is a reserve account. I'll get you the details and the down on it.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, the last resolution, 10.37, resolution 21-427, is a resolution recognizing May 2021 as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Council members, thank you. Hope you'll consider adoption May 2021 as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. You know, if as many of you attended the rally particularly for Asian Americans this year, it's taking on new greater importance in given all of the kind of the rising Asian hate crimes. There is one amendment. It looks like it's the opening line, council offered and moved adoption of the following resolution is reiterated twice. So we're going to just fix that and clean that up.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Sean?
I don't know if Joe is
on.
Joe Cunha, are
Right.
you there? Let's see if we can get Joe Cunha. Can you hold on 1 second?
Okay.
Joyce, was he notified?
Yes, he was. He was
He
notified.
was. He's been in contact with me throughout the caucus, but he did have, he had
Well,
to.
then tell him to be there Wednesday night because this is a hot issue which many people are complaining about.
Well, I prefer him to be here at caucus so we can ask questions. Sometime when we have the public meeting, we can't go back and forth. That's the problem. And the public needs it here so we can ask questions, so he can give an answer or explanation to exactly what happened with MUA. So. BA, have you heard from him?
You are?
Sean, he just texted me that he's on.
He's on. Okay. He's on.
I got him on my cell phone. I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear him that well. I'll do a test, and if you can't hear him that well, I'm gonna have him call directly into the meeting, since I have him on the phone. All right, Joe, can you just say testing 1, 2, 3?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear him?
I can hear.
I can hear him.
Okay, he's gonna talk now. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, good evening. Am I on live?
You're on.
Yeah.
Good evening, Council. I'd like to just field some questions tonight regarding solid waste billings. I understand that you're probably getting a lot of questions about them. The majority of the bills have gone out at this point. There are still a few accounts that are going to be from now through the end of June, but otherwise most people have received their bill by now for the first quarter and even parts of the second quarter, depending on
Sean,
where.
can't hear a word he's saying.
Joe, hold on 1 second. Now they're saying they can't hear you. So give me 1 second. So Joe, is there a way that you can hang up and call this number, or you want me to text it to you? I'll text you the number. You can call in on the meeting, and then you just have to put in the ID, the conference ID number. I'll give that to you in the text, and just call right in, because then everybody will be able to hear you then. All right. Thanks, Joe. Give me 1 second. Bye.
Okay.
Sorry about that, council members. I'm just going to give him.
No problem.
I just figured since I had him on the phone, I would try to get him to speak.
This is the portion where the music play. Doo, doo, doo.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Just bear with me. He'll be calling in a minute.
Sean, is Halloran there?
John Hallinan is here.
All right, I got to call him.
Oh, I'm here, but you can certainly call me and I'll.
Yeah, we got, what about, the flowers? Were you able to solve that issue? Are we getting the information?
We should talk offline then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
Good evening, am I on?
Yeah.
Yes, you are, Joe. There you are. Okay. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Joe. Take it from the top.
Okay, taking it from the top. Good evening, council. Thanks for having me on. Sorry for the technical difficulties. So I wanted to just briefly have a discussion with you about the solid waste billing that you may have been receiving some inquiries about. As I was saying before, not sure if you heard me, the majority of the bills have gone out. Everyone has received their bill, except for a small amount of folks that will still be billing through the end of June. But by the end of June, we do anticipate that 100% will have received their bill if they were going to be billed. When I say if they were going to be billed, again, we are only billing those that do not have private collection already and have not submitted any evidence of having private collection. The overall reason why we went with this method was because, first and foremost, it is an approved method. We are a utility under the municipal utilities laws of New Jersey. We are allowed to bill for solid waste separately, but most importantly, equity. Equity in billing, equity in fair share payment for the solid waste. What I mean by that is that there are many developments over the years still on the books as what they call pilots. I'm sure you're all familiar. Payment in lieu of taxes, payment made up front, no taxes for a certain amount of years. By not paying taxes for those amount of years, they are not paying for their fair share of solid waste as well. The previous 5-year contract that was just renewed after being rebid publicly by this council jumped from $10.5 million to $15.5 million per year. It was just simply an astronomical jump. That is the way of the industry, and I just wanted to make sure that you all knew exactly how that came about, and the fact that there is still in the tax base, and the actual taxes collected, the cost for tipping. They're called tipping fees in the industry, but that's basically the cost of dumping solid waste. So it's not that the entire costs were removed from the city. Only the hauling contract was transferred to the MUA, for which we are billing and collecting. So if anyone would have any questions, if Council President would like to field those.
Joe,
Yes,
Joe, people consider this another form of a taxation on us, and they're quite annoyed about it. And no other taxes being reduced or no other form of compensation. It's putting another burden on the people, the homeowners, the 1- and 2-family homeowners of the city of Jersey City, basically. And quite a few people are really ticked off about this, Joe.
Yes, sir. I understand. So here's the alternative. The alternative would have been a raising of the taxes, keeping it exactly the way it was, the city running and paying the contract. The difference here is that now the base for which we bill is a broader base, in that the pilots who were not paying anything via taxes for the solid waste are now paying their fair share. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that those who are coming to you about that and that are outraged realize that that is actually being spread over more people to pay towards that.
Yeah.
So $15.5 million is being shared more equitably than if it was just in the taxes.
Well, some of the people have said they've gotten the bills and they're really furious about it. I don't think this should have been brought out.
We have,
especially would see more deer taking a beating on this.
What I want to make sure that you all have, even if not during this meeting, right after this meeting, I'll have it forwarded to you. I'm not sure if you've seen the FAQs that we put together. I think it's a good resource, a good starting point for when anyone asks you for anything. I guess maybe I could have probably done a better job of putting that out there earlier. It is on the websites, ours, and I believe the cities, and it's on Suez's as well. If at the end of the FAQs and after they call the two numbers. Right now, it's the Suez regarding the bills specifically. DPW, sanitation, as always, regarding the service, if there's any questions or issues with the service. And if after all of that, they have not gotten the answer they want, or they just want to, you know, give me a piece of their mind, feel free to forward them to me, and I will handle them, you know, as best I can anyway. But I want to make sure that you all have that. Are you all familiar with the FAQs, the frequently asked questions?
Just send it over to my office, Joe, and I'll make sure each one of them get a copy. I'm quite sure some of us are, but some of us may not have it.
Okay.
Joe?
Okay, very
Hi,
good.
it's
I will do that.
Councilwoman Prinzeri. I have a question for you. I've had a number of businesses reach out to me, laundromats, car washes that have their own private hauler, but they also saw an increase in their bill. How is that being rectified?
Come here.
So the easiest way for us to actually figure out who had private and who didn't was to start the billing, have them provide us the evidence. So as soon as you can get them to send me the contract and the last two canceled bills, they'll be removed immediately from the billing. But that's why they saw a bill in the first place.
And what if they paid a portion of that bill to maintain their service? What's the, like, how are they going to be refunded?
Right now, we don't have any mechanism for the refund, but we will be working on that by the end of this year to try to go back and amend those, try to make them whole. But again, it's the easiest way to do it is the sooner they get us that, the better. And yeah, by the end of this year, once the finances have all been calculated, we'll be able to go back and amend that via an audit. Many of them, the ones I know about, have not paid. They've held off on paying, and we wouldn't be assessing any fees for that, for any lates or anything on that.
Okay.
Joe, this is Councilman Navarro.
Hi, Councilman.
So I want to take you back to when you opened up your statement. You said when you made the decision, you said we decided. Who is the we in this decision? This decision to take this route as opposed to raising taxes or paying for it through traditional general budget to establish a solid waste collection fee. Who was involved in that decision and how was that decision arrived at?
Okay, so that's a good question. So initially it began with it actually was a continuation of when we assisted the city last year. You may recall, I believe it was around July. We assisted with the prepayment or early payment of franchise fee from future years to assist the city in the temporary financial, I don't want to say crisis, financial issue, cash flow issue. So what we did is we continued on that same route, same thought process to try to find some innovative ways to figure out more equity, especially with the solid waste, because we are able to do that via the MUA. So it was basically myself and the BA mainly discussed it at first, and then from there it was a simple conversation. Then from there we went to the attorneys. We didn't want to do anything that wasn't within the legal rights of the MUA, and it kind of evolved from there.
So it was you and the business administrator, that being Mr. Metro or Mr. Platt?
I think it started with Mr. Platt and it continued over. Yeah, it started with Mr. Platt for sure. We had the one conversation initially and we continued down that path, which, as you might imagine, it took months. Yeah, this conversation started early last year. And
so, Mr. Metro, I'm sure you may not know. I'm going to guess you're going to potentially say that, but I'm going to ask: was the mayor's office involved in those conversations with the business administrator's office, or did you just do this arbitrarily, or was the business administrator's office just conducting this sort of decision arbitrarily and without kind of mayoral guidance?
Councilman, I'm not sure of the particulars of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. Someone else?
Yeah, Director. Yeah, this is Councilman Solomon. Thank you for coming and chatting. Now, first quick question: have any companies opted out by hiring their own private haulers?
Yes, they have. Yes, I could prepare a list right now off the top of my head. I don't know exactly who they are. Some have been laundromats for sure. Those I recall because, as you know, the water is the main source of volume and measurement. So as you might imagine, their waste generated is a lot less proportionate to their water usage. So the easiest way was, and actually a lot of the laundromats already had private hauling. So, you know, typically a structure such as ours would have most commercial, if not all commercial, not partake in curbside and have direct hauling. That's another benefit of this. It will help spread the equity a little bit more and kind of correct some of the previous assessments, not limited to them, but also some of the larger residential, which will also reduce the burden on the DPW as well.
Sure. Yeah. If you could just provide a list of everyone who's opted out since, you know, January 1st, 2021, that'd be great. That'd be helpful to analyze. And then this is just more of comments, but I just wanted to respectfully disagree with a couple of the things that you brought up. The first, just getting onto abatements. Abatements do pay for taxes, right? Their pilot goes into our budget, and in fact, they may even pay to the city side. They may pay more. They're kind of, excuse my French, screwing over the county and the schools by not paying into those pockets. And they do also have their fees increased depending on the form of the abatement, and they pay a percentage of the municipal tax. So it's not fair to say abated buildings pay nothing. They do pay a significant portion of our tax base, and it's the schools in the county that don't get the money that they should be getting from those abated buildings. And then the second thing I think just gets to the kind of decision making, and obviously I do understand that this was in the legal rights of the MUA, but this is a pretty big, important policy decision of how we shift the way in which things are paid for. And, you know, part of my concern is, you know, if you were to say, hey, we're going to take this $16 million out of the city budget, put it on the MUA through this fee, and then we're going to cut city property taxes by 16 million, we can have that conversation. But the problem is this happened without sort of any of us knowing it happened. And we as a council, as a governing body, weren't included. And that may be the technical legal, that may be totally legal, but I think from a policy basis, as the elected representatives who are elected to make these types of decisions, concerning. And so I do think we should have been included in the kind of that process.
Understood.
That's true. Good
Yeah,
point, Jim.
because we're the ones that are taking the heat from all the homeowners,
Correct.
especially.
Correct.
So I have a question about two things. Could you provide a list of the fees paid by property? I know that's a long list, but I'd like to inspect that list. And then how much is the estimated collections from the solid waste collection fee do you anticipate receiving?
Okay. Yeah. The anticipated is easy. That's in the solid waste study that we provided back in September. If you didn't all get that, then I will redistribute that through council president as well. So as of right now, I have that. I have the FAQs, and I have those who had opted out to provide to council president by tomorrow.
Okay.
Did anyone else get that solid waste study?
I think we got it. I think we got it back. I think he sent it to us back, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we sent it back.
We did get it
the end of last
Yeah,
year.
he sent it back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Along with sewer, there was the sewer rates and
Right.
the sewer, water, and solid waste.
Right. He sent it back. Okay. Someone else?
And there was a public hearing.
Right.
Can individual residents, homeowners opt out as well?
As of right now, Councilman, we don't have a mechanism for that. We've tried to set the minimum at 10 units or more. I think it should be more like 50 or more, but it'd be overly onerous just for the sheer size of the database. And more importantly, it'd be almost impossible for the garbage company to be able to skip every other, or, you know, as you might imagine how this could get in the more single and two-family zones, it'd be almost impossible to skip out of that, and then they might pick up their garbage, and then everybody else is paying for that garbage when the private was paying for it. It'd be a real tough thing to do.
Okay. Someone else?
Council President, Councilman Robinson, Mr. Kuna, Director, I know we did Van Voor's Park last week and you just mentioned 10 units or more. I don't know if you explained this at the Van Voor's Park meeting last week, but would the garbage company know which properties to skip?
So that's a good question as well. So when you, yes, I mentioned 10 that night. I did mention that we were toying with going to 50, but when you have 10 units or more, it's a lot easier to pick those off than when you have, especially since we're talking Van Voor's neighborhood, so many single and two-family homes in a row or in a zone. It'd be very, very difficult to do that accurately. As we all know, we have challenges with our hauling contractor already. Just getting those straight is enough. I think we'll all agree, right? To get right, adding this in would probably not work out very well.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to my question, but how do we know? Because, you know, different trucks, different drivers, different crews on the trucks. How would we know, you know, which buildings or which laundromats or which businesses to skip on a nightly basis? You can't mark the building with a red X. I mean, but I would like to know, because something tells me that we're still going to be picking up, you know, some waste that don't belong to us if we don't get that part right.
I apologize. Thank you for clarifying. The driver for each route, and this is straight from the contractor themselves, Republic. Is it Republic? Regional Industries. Each driver each day for each route is given a list of do not pick up. And that's exactly how it's done. I'm not so sure that they punch it into their GPS, but they're all equipped with GPS, which we've encouraged them to use, especially when there are claims of missed pickups and the like, because, you know, it tracks exactly what time they were on each street. And that also assists you all, I would think, with when you receive these calls of missed pickups and whatnot. But yeah, that's exactly how it's done. It's a list is given and it's kept up in real time, and it's given to each driver each day.
Someone else?
What kind of accountability is there for the trash pickup? Does that still fall with DPW or you guys? Like, now you're managing the contract, and is this really the best contract we could possibly get? Because it's $15 million. You said it jumped, you know, $5 million. Have we thought about breaking up the RFP into, you know, smaller segments? I know the Heights is the size of Hoboken, and I definitely think that when they pick up trash, they leave a lot of trash in the sidewalk. You know, they leave it in the middle of the street. They're not really picking it up properly. What are we doing to make sure that all this money that we're spending, like half the trash does not end up in the street?
Councilman, I'll
Okay,
take
great.
that one.
Yeah,
I'll take
BA.
Sure.
So thank you, Councilman. This is definitely an ongoing situation, and the Council President and I, with Councilperson Brinseri, have met with the vendor and shared our concerns. We've had working meetings over the last 2 months now, internally and externally. That compliance is going to be, will continue to be with the Quality of Life Task Force, which Director Hudnut oversees. And the first process of that was to make sure that we're all in compliance with data. So we're making sure that all the complaints are coming in through See-Click-Fix, and that they're being handed off to the dispatcher and in return to the vehicle operator. And for anything that's egregious, meaning, you know, large spillage, unbagged garbage, that type of stuff, the individuals would be receiving violations. And for stuff that's left in the middle of the street or missed pickups, we're exploring also finding a company for those particular problems.
just because I witnessed it with my own eyes when they toss. They're like in the Olympics. They'll throw it from one side of the street to the other into the truck. Half of it will land in the street, and it's really. I get text messages every time there's a pickup. I get the pictures. I get the complaints. We do weekly pickup. We do weekly cleanups because of it, and I'm sick and tired of it. And if we're paying $15 million and now it's being transferred over, there has to be. We need aggressive compliance with this. And I went down to Hoboken. I saw how they pick up the trash there. They pick it up with respect for the community.
No, I agree, Councilman. I know it's a ongoing issue and a complaint for many of our council members with this particular vendor. Like I said, we're working through it. One thing that we've changed recently and actually went into effect on Monday was that prior to this, their on-site vendor, which is mandated through the contract, was here during days responding to citizen complaints throughout the day from the previous night. We've changed that to that they're working overnight with our overnight inspectors to hopefully pick up and clean all these issues up prior to the sunrise and prior to residents seeing it and complaining. So it's in the test pilot, but the council president and I and Councilwoman Prinzeri have been very progressive, and we're going to continue to meet 2 to 3 times. I'm sorry, every 2 or 3 weeks with the vendor to continue to circle back on the complaints and hold them accountable. And violations and summonses are definitely in conversation.
Can you include me on those meetings? Just because, you know, the Heights. I think if you come after trash day, you'll see the trash is significant in the street, and it's the biggest complaint I have in the Heights, in addition to parking. So
let me ask you something, Councilman. Do you call in and complain about it? Who do you call?
I have spoken and I wanted to meet with the vendor.
Okay.
I've instructed people to put into C-Click Fix. Most people just pick up the trash themselves. We've been having weekly cleanups for the last like 8 weeks with Clean Green JC. We even bought our own trash pickers, you know, those claws that pick up the trash, and we need to stop it at the source. That's the issue.
But since they got the night dispatcher, I think you should call the night dispatcher and Tom Brown, if I'm correct, right, Mira? That's who is heading up this this endeavor from Quality of Life. So what I'll do also is make sure you get Tom's personal number. I mean, we get calls in the middle of the night. So he should know. I think the more calls he get, the seriousness he see. We're not making this up, which I don't think he does, but he'll be able to get the data, and that's what we need, also some data. And I'll definitely let you know about the meetings. That won't be a problem.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe. Please send us all the information we need. This is a council issue here. In the future, please consult the council, because after all, we do get the feedback from the people. That's all we ask.
We'll do.
Notify us.
We'll do.
That's all. Okay.
We'll do, and I'll forward the information requested.
Please, thank you. Okay,
Thank you all. Have a
Sean.
good night.
Oh,
Good night.
Council President, can I ask one question? Where is the, so you collect the money, and then what's the mechanism here? Is it coming back to the city in installments, and is it going to be revenue in our budget? How's that looking on our side and then from your side?
No, it's fairly simple. It's collected through Suez, just like the water and sewer. It's literally a extra line item on there. It's measured exactly the same way, and once received by Suez, goes into our budget and then is basically paid right out to the solid waste company, since the contract is with us.
Okay.
However, we don't manage it. DPW Sanitation manages the customer service. Suez manages the billing, and we're kind of the intermediary and try to handle everything else that falls in between.
Okay, so that begs another question. I'm sorry. So the council approved the contract. So how did the contract come from the city to MUA? And do we still have a contract? in place, or was that canceled?
No, there was a mechanism in the contract that the council approved that required that the contract be transferred over to the MUA January 1st of this year. That was when it was bid last year.
Well, I didn't approve the contract, so
And actually,
I guess.
and actually, the just for the record, the rate study also states the same. It only accounts for January 1st forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay,
You're
with that,
So much, Sean.
with that being said, may I have a motion to adjourn at 6:40 PM?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Soleil, and I'll give the second to Councilperson Rivera. On the motion to adjourn at 6:40 PM, all council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
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 We are out of here at 6:40 PM. Thank you very much. Thank you, Council President, members of the council, staff, and all the professionals joining us. Thank you for your patience, members of the public. We had some technical difficulties, but I do appreciate your patience during this. And remember, let's keep our social distance, keep fighting this pandemic. We're almost out of the woods, but we're not quite out of the woods yet. So make sure you're doing your due diligence. And remember, always, teamwork makes the dream work. Have a great night. Stay safe.
Thank you, Sean.